Hello,
Hi,
how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. I hold on. I was trying to turn on my screen, but I don't even know how to do that. Hold on. Da-da, da-da. Is that going to work? I don't know. Let's see. Oh
There
my
you go.
goodness. Hi.
We got you. Nice to meet you in person finally, like this.
I know. I know. Nice to meet you too.
So we'll get going. And for those that are watching, what I usually do for these live versions is I will download this either later tonight or tomorrow, and then I'll upload it on my YouTube channel, and then I'll go ahead and post the link again, so you can share it to everybody you want to share it with, and whoever wasn't able to watch the entire thing, whoever wasn't able to join, they can go and
Yeah, for
watch it
sure.
later.
Yeah.
Okay, and then again, anybody again who doesn't know me or doesn't follow me, in my link tree is my YouTube channel, and I interview indie authors. I believe I have 45 interviews up now on the YouTube channel, and I'll just keep adding them. Just bringing all these amazing, talented authors to you guys. Try to increase their audience and increase their followers of their work. So welcome to the show today. I'm really happy I can get you on here today. I
I
was
know. This
giving
is crazy.
everybody a kind of I wasn't clear on it, but I was giving them a kind of a pre thing about I know you have something coming out, I believe the 21st and 28th, but I
I
wasn't
do.
clear
Mhm.
exactly what it was. But we'll go over that in a second. So, for everybody that's watching, I want to welcome you and introduce you to author T. Farrell. We're going to talk today about, herself, what she's published, what she's working on, maybe what her plans are for the future. Why don't you go ahead and usually what I like to do is why don't you introduce yourself to the viewers and just give them an idea of who you are, again, as much or as little as you'd like to share.
Oh my gosh. The on the spot stuff. Well, I'm T Farrell. I just recently started my journey with writing books. I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Um, I've written for a very long time, for years, but it was definitely not stories. It was definitely not what I am trying to do right now. It was more
Hmm.
of like a freehand, like poetry type of thing. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't call myself an outgoing person, but I can be. Let's see what else. I have a few things in the works as of right now. I have a Dalmatian, uh, and I have a 11-year-old.
Nice. Okay, so let's do this. Because like you said, you started your journey a couple of years ago, but you were writing before. Very similar to actually a lot of us have been writing since we were children or whatever. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of my early stuff was also poetry, which I
Right.
still do, and it's always a good reset for me when I'm having trouble with a story or something. Is just to go to that and kind of get yourself back in the mindset for what you're writing.
Yeah.
But one of the things I like to ask, because again, every author has a unique voice, right? Every author has their own voice,
Mm-hmm.
which again goes to why there should not be any competition. Doesn't matter if you're writing in the same genre or anything, because every author's voice is unique, and the voice is basically built on, your upbringing, your likes, your influences. So one of the questions I always like to ask is what influences you creatively? And it doesn't have to be essentially authors and books. It could be music, movies, art, anything that gives you the spark for you to do what you like to do.
Honestly, I think it would probably be a lot of it is music, um, a lot of art. I'm a very visionary person, so I could take something that is in a room and come up with an entire story in my head. The same thing with music. The reason I like to include, like, for example, Spotify playlists in my books is because while I am writing, I am envisioning a story with the lyrics of the song. So I think a lot of my inspiration comes from that, and there are maybe life instances around me that that will influence my writing
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I would ask that question later when music is one of your influences, because playlists and stuff are a big thing for a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
authors
Yep.
right now in books. But it made sense to me because any art form, music, writing, movies, anything, right, or even art, it's that connection to the viewer, to the reader, to the listener, and it's that connection to them, and it's that art form that comes through. So it makes sense that there is that actually almost uniform connection between music and writing, because it's that emotion, it's that
Yeah.
feelings you get on both. So it's just a great combination that just makes sense to me when you put them together.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely agree with that. I think I uh so I work out during the evenings, and I know I have my own playlists and whatnot. And I think literally within the first few seconds of the song playing, while I was like mid cardio, I had this like story epiphany, and it came to me. It was so fast, and I was like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
need to write this down. So I am like dripping sweat. I am off the treadmill, and I'm like, okay, write it down. And that's usually how it happens, is like
Yep.
I will be listening to, it can be absolutely anything, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, oh my God, this would be an amazing scenario to put into this book. And usually that's how it comes around.
Yeah, it is interesting how stories come about. I mean, my werewolf book, I've mentioned this before on some of the podcasts, but my werewolf book was really an image in my head, right? It was almost like I saw a
Yep.
painting,
Mm-hmm.
and then from that painting I wrote the scene, and then I just kind of kept going from there.
Yep.
and
Yep.
and that's what it is. You just don't know, sometimes something will just click,
Yeah.
and that's what you need, and you keep going.
I think
Thank you,
that's one of the
Lisa, for
most,
stopping in.
absolutely, that's, yeah, that's one of the most beautiful things I think um about writing and being able to do that. I mean, it's not always easy to take
Yeah.
that image in your head and definitely put it down on words. Um, but when it does come out, it is the most rewarding feeling in the world.
Yeah, and again, it's part of being an indie author. How beautiful that is you can do anything you want. You can take it anywhere you want.
Mm-hmm.
You can do the story any way you want. There is no restrictions, right? There's nobody telling
Right.
you, "Well, you should take it this way." You can let
Right.
that story go however you
Mm-hmm.
want, or however the story wants to go. Because sometimes it's its own thing. It's not even you anymore.
Right. Yeah. I'm definitely the same way about that. I do I contemplated a lot, I think, about being an indie author and being traditionally published. And I am not a risk taker. So I don't even know why I decided to go this route, but definitely being an indie author and having your own, I mean, basically you do what you want. It's it can be great. It's exhausting, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, again, and that's why I try to support all you guys, because I know the struggle, right? I know how much work this is, because
Hmm.
we do everything on our own. There is nobody to send and say, "Oh, I need a cover." Well, I mean, we have to hire somebody, but there
Right,
is nobody
right,
that's doing that for you. There's nobody that's
right.
marketing for you. You're
Yeah,
making your own videos. You're doing your own posts. You're doing everything on your
yeah,
own. So I will always support other indie authors, because I know that we all do it because we love it, right? We're doing it for the
right.
love of it. Unfortunately, not for the income that you get. It's just more for the love of the
I
product.
know. Yeah, I mean, the income's not there, but it's coming from a good place.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit about how some of your ideas come in, right? And
Mhm.
this is kind of going to be like a two-part question. Part of it is, what would you consider yourself? Are you a full-out plotter? Are you a pantser that lets it go? Are you a hybrid, which a lot of people are, because you can plot and then sometimes the story just organically goes on its own, and then you wind up being a pantser. So that's one thing I want to talk about. But really, the stories, the books that you're releasing, where did those? Is that a story that you've had a long time? Was that something that just kind of came to you?
Oh my. Well, I think most of all it was a story that kind of came to me, and I think the reason I chose it that way. So with the book that I wrote, it's a what you would consider a dark high school bully romance book. And I think I had a love for that because that is how I started out my reading journey. So I feel like it was almost a safe place. It was
Yeah.
a safe thing. So I decided to give it a shot. It wasn't necessarily a story that I had in my mind for a long time. I feel like I just one day decided I'm gonna write this and I'm gonna see if I like it. And then I kind of started from there. But there are other stories that I will be releasing in the future that I have had um, saved. I mean, like in my brain or in my notes for quite a while.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know why. I kind of felt like I said, I'm not a risk taker. So when I did decide to write this high school bully romance, I I was still kind of in my shell. I was trying to keep it safe and try and be um, I tend to put myself in a box sometimes. So I think that was a safe place for me, and I knew about it, and I read it, and I fell in love with it, and I think that's what kind of drove me to write the story that I did.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that I've noticed that a lot of the indie authors, um, a vast majority of them are very introverted, right?
Yeah.
They do have trouble coming out. And again, this is why I kind of do this because I'm an extroverted introvert, right? I'm fine being completely
Right.
alone and doing my own thing, but I'm fine doing this, right? You know, coming
Hmm.
out and talking. And I do this in this way where we're just like chatting and talking about what we love for that reason. So you're comfortable and you're able to get through the questions and really talk about your stuff, right? And what you're doing. But the point I really want to make is, you know, you talked about starting on your comfort zone and kind of boxing yourself in. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? Because as with anything, same with writing, you're just going to get better with it, right? You're going to get better the more you do anything, the more you
Hmm.
practice, the more you write, the more you just keep going at it. And it's not a bad thing, or it's not even the simple way to go into your comfort zone, go into what you know and start, and then from that point you just start broadening it out and start thinking of other stuff that you really want to do. So
Right.
it's you know, it's something I would always suggest for the younger authors or the early writers is don't don't have to push yourself right away, right? Don't go out there and really force yourself to be uncomfortable. And being uncomfortable is not a bad thing because that's where you get the most growth,
Right.
but don't push yourself so far into it right away. You know, and it's not a bad thing to go into your kind of your comfort area of what you know and what you're comfortable in, and start your journey out there, right? So it was a good way to do that.
I think, yeah, I actually really love that. That's awesome to hear because you know, I am exactly that way. And there are other people that can push themselves out there and definitely put themselves out there. And I am so impressed by that. I love that. That's amazing that there are people that can do that. I myself, I can't. I'm a little bit more on the shy side. You know, push myself when I can. But I do think that I made the right decision in starting off slow
Yeah.
and kind of easing my way into it because I mean this is still so new to me. It is a roller coaster of so many things. And if someone ever told me that there was this much marketing and being an indie author, it is insane. It
Yeah.
is insane. I mean, I love it. It's great. I have fun with it. I do. But I'm like, oh my God.
It's probably what it's probably about 75% of what
It
you
it
have to do, right?
easy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was gonna be like, you know, write your book first, you know, do it first. And yes, that is part of it, but getting it out there is a challenge on its own.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you know, the biggest struggle I think for all of us as indie authors is the audience, right? Finding the audience.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I always say this and I 100% believe it is, I don't care what story you write or how you wrote it, there's an audience for what you wrote, right? If
Hmm.
you like it, there's an audience out there that also likes it. And the struggle is how can you find that audience? How can the audience find you? And that's where most of our time goes into is can we join, right? Can we the
Right.
audience find us and can we find them?
Right.
And for you, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you. C.H. Reese is on here, who's another indie author, and there's a couple of us authors that have this share team that we do, and we basically tag each other and we share everybody's posts for that reason. It's a support system to get you out there for your stuff to be seen, right?
I
And
love that. That's awesome.
yeah, and if you ever go and follow some of these, um, Ella, I forget her last name, but Ella's Indie Invasion or Indie Explosion. Lisa Pratt was on here. She's off. Shauna, the author, was on here as well, and she was off. Didi Mora. All of those are indie authors, and they each do different things to highlight other indie authors, right? They each have different little segments that they release every day to
Hmm.
just highlight other indie authors to get everybody's stuff out there, right? So
Right.
for again other indie authors that are listening, and definitely for you, there is a support system out there for you when you're doing this, when you're starting out, and we can all lean on each other and do this, right? So I always say, tag me whenever you want me to share anything. I don't mind. I'm not gonna think I'm getting spammed. If you tag me on 20 videos when your book comes out, it's fine. I'll share it out there so it gets out there, right?
Uh,
Um, but that's the thing. It's a support system for all of us because it's a struggle, right? It's a struggle to get
yeah,
out there. And what
absolutely.
everybody should remember is it doesn't even matter how many followers each person has, right? So if somebody has only 400 followers and they share your stuff, that could be 400 people that don't know you or don't even follow you. That's
Right.
400 new eyes on your product, right? So
Hmm.
it's not about numbers, it's not about anything. It's just about getting your stuff out there. And
Right.
I definitely invite you to check those things out so you get your stuff more out there, and definitely tag me when your book comes
No,
out
absolutely.
so we can get it out there.
I'm so
Um,
excited.
yeah, and again, a support system is, I can't even explain how important that is for everybody, right? And
Mhm.
it goes across the board. It goes in everyday life, just having somebody that supports you, or in the writing journey, because a lot of us, you know, we may be the only one in our family or in our friend group that does do this. So these little support groups of other indie authors that you can send. I have a couple authors that I send. What do you think of this? And they can give me feedback and different things like that, whether it's artwork or ideas or anything. And it helps. It helps to have that support system,
That's
right? So
awesome.
don't ever be afraid to get into that. So you do have that stuff with your work.
Yeah, that's definitely new to me. I think because I am the only person in my group and family and friends that is actually like dared to do this, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's kind of one of those things that's off the beaten path a little bit. It's I feel like when people talk about indie authors, they think, well, oh, you're taking the dreamers route. Like that's, is that going to provide this and that and this and that? And I'm like, well, no, but it's something that I love to do. So it's very important to have those people around you, to even have other fellow authors that like feel the same way. And they say, it might not pay all the bills, but
Yeah.
I do it because I enjoy it and I love it, and I provide something to other people that they really love.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's super duper important. So that's awesome that you guys do that, and I will
Yeah.
100% look into
Yeah,
that.
we definitely do that because again, we all understand the
Mm-hmm.
need for that support, right? And that's interesting because I wish it was taking the dreamers route because really, it's taking the hardest route being an indie author
100%.
because we all work full time and do
Yep.
this on the side, right? So it's not,
Yep.
I wish it was sitting on the coast in Italy, looking out the window at the ocean and just
Like
sitting there being
typing
able to write.
away. Right. Oh my gosh.
But unfortunately, that's not it, right? It's writing. It's
Yeah.
writing after work or writing on your lunchtime or writing
No matter
middle of the
how
night, whatever
exhausted you
whatever
are.
that what it comes out to be, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But going back to the kind of that part one question of it is, where do you find yourself falling? Are you kind of a hybrid? Are you more of a plotter? Are you more of a let's just let it go as it goes?
I think I'm a little bit of a hybrid,
Yeah,
honestly. But I lean a little bit more crazy. Like I just let it go.
yeah,
And then I'll write what I'm thinking. And then from there, I'll read. back and say, okay, well, that was wacky. Let's change it. I mean, but I think where the hybrid part comes in is I obviously have to start with a plot. I have to start with like a seed of an idea. So, I mean, I have to give somebody a purpose somewhere. And then
Yeah,
from there, I let all the events happen organically.
yeah.
I mean, they just kind
You
of
almost
start
have
flowing
to,
in.
right? You almost
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to
for
because
sure.
the story. I mean, I don't even care what the story is. The story is always going to want to go. It's going to want to go where it wants to go, and
Mm-hmm.
you just sometimes have to go for the ride with it and just say, okay,
Yeah.
let's see where it goes. And that's the thing. Again, there is no right or wrong way, right? There is no right way saying you have to be a plotter or pantser or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of in the same way like you're doing it, where you just let it flow, right? You just write and then go back and figure out, okay, what did I do here?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
does it make
Uh-huh.
sense? Where do I need to connect it?
Yeah.
What really was I talking about here when I was doing this?
I
But
know. And sometimes you're
it's
just like, why would I even write that? That was weird.
but it's I've noticed, and a lot of other authors have said too, sometimes the best story comes out when you just let it go, right? When you don't try
Yeah.
to force it. You have your initial idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is, and then when you just let it go, sometimes that's the best work, right? You're
I
just
think it,
like,
yeah.
just let it go where it wants to go. Don't fight it.
Don't fight it. Just let it happen. And because sometimes when you let things go, I feel like internal things about yourself come out and show on those pages. And some of those things are the most beautiful things that you can put out into a book.
Yep.
It's those deep thoughts that you don't tell anybody. It's those thoughts or those words that sometimes when you're speaking, you wish you could say, but they never really come out. So when you let yourself go and you let yourself tap into that state of mind, I think you can come up with some of the most beautiful work
Yep.
that you've ever done.
Yeah, because when you're writing a character, you're technically saying, well, it's not me, right? So
Mm-hmm.
even though everything I'm saying is what I want to say, it's
Yeah.
not technically coming
And
from me. So
technically,
you
it's
can
not
let it
me,
flow.
so
You can let it flow, right? You can just let it
depending
come
on who
out.
you're writing,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
And it's actually sometimes very therapeutic, right? It
Oh.
really does help you to let that out, right? To just
Mm-hmm.
put it in there. And when you see each is laughing, when you do put it out there and let it just let it go, right? So, I want to talk about your releases, what's coming out.
Yeah.
But one of the things, I do want to make a point is as soon as you release those, one of the things you're going to start doing is, you know, watching your reviews as they come in. And one of the things you got to just recognize is it's going to take forever. They're not going to come as quickly as you would like. And the other thing is definitely don't worry about a bad review, right? Because one of the things you always have to remember is you just cannot please 100% of the people. There's some people that are just going to hate what you did. And it's nothing against you. It's nothing against your
Yeah.
talent, your story. It's not something they like, right? So you just got to, try not to check it daily, which is, I think, what a lot of us will do. Go, okay, has our
Oh
number
gosh,
changed?
no.
But
No, I'm far too sensitive for that. I'm like, you know what? This is probably a bad idea because I'm a sensitive person. And that's why I think I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to look at it. If you like it, you can tell me later.
yeah. So let's talk about the books because I meant, like I said, I mentioned just before you got on that I know your profile says you have something coming out the 21st, which is next Friday, and the following Friday, the 28th. But I wasn't really clear on what it was, so I didn't really want to explain because I wasn't clear on it. So why don't you let everybody know first what's happening on those two dates, and then
Okay,
let's kind of
so
explain or get like a summary of what the story is.
okay, well, oh, I think that's a really loud vehicle. Okay. Anyway, so I wrote a duet, right? So it is a part one and a part two. And I was crazy enough to think that I wanted to release them both on the same day. Semantics, because it's like a week
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
So June 21st is going to be Ruthless Beginnings, and that is the first book in the duet. And then June 28th will be the second book, which follows the first book. So literally within a week of each other, they will be out.
Okay, and then is this, do you plan on this being, and again, sometimes it's not an easy question to answer. Do you plan on this being a standalone as part one, part two? Or is there maybe more story within that story that there could be some other stuff coming out?
Actually, there is a story within that story.
Okay.
um, it so there will be a standalone with that story that comes out, and it's actually out now. And the reason for that, and it's kind of a backwards thing. If you would like me to explain it, I can. But the story that is already out is called Wicked Ride, and basically it follows two characters that are in Ruthless Beginnings and Merciless Endings, um, like 4 years later. So that's Wicked Ride, and that one is already out. Ruthless Beginnings and Merciless Endings on its own is actually a rewrite. So this rewrite, again, because I am a nutcase, I guess. um, I decided to unpublish and rewrite them just because I had a few issues with the way that I had wrote it the first time. And it was all just my own decision. I read back and I kind of thought to myself, I didn't, not that I didn't enjoy the story or I didn't like the story, but there was so much more that I could have done with it. There was a lot of things that I could have included. There was a lot of, I didn't know how to unpack it, I guess I could say, because in my brain, it was an entire, I mean, it had like, I mean, if you could picture the crazy guy meme with like the red string on the board, that was me. Um, and I didn't know how to put it on pages. So this time around, I kind of took my time, did things differently, researched a few things, and I'm really happy the way that it turned out. So, but that is why Wicked Ride is out first, because I wrote that right after my first publishing.
Okay.
But it does have its own story after the two.
So technically it was the follow up, but because you unpublished the other ones, it became the initial.
The
Okay.
initial. So,
I,
anyone who follows my work, I am so sorry that I'm so crazy. But that's what happened.
but again, it's like you said, you kind of reread the thing and you said there's other stuff I could do here to
Hmm.
expand or to adjust, or you don't want to say fix, but just to do stuff within the story, and
Yes.
that's going to happen. Like I said, you're just going to keep growing
Hmm.
as a writer the more you go, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're just going to get better and better at it as you go with it.
Yeah, that makes me feel better because sometimes I question what kind of things I do and don't do, and I feel like I get too caught up in my head and in my thinking rather than actually doing what I want to do. And I think that's what affected me the first time around with the first two books is I got way too caught up in what I thought was okay for me to write rather than what I wanted to write. And I think
Hmm.
that's very important because it shows. It shows in the work that you put out. And then afterwards, when you've started to grow as a writer, you look back at those stories and you say, I was holding back, or I was not in the place that I should have been when I wrote it. And I do have a few people that absolutely loved the first two books, and I am so grateful and so happy. And I feel I feel so bad sometimes because I took it back, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna totally change up the story now.
It's again, it happens. It happens, and it's all about the growth. So the growth, the fact that you are growing, and seeing where you can take it. But the biggest thing is the fact that you said I need to honor my voice is the most important thing, right? That's something that sometimes people in general, no matter what they do, don't find till much later. So when you can find that early, that's an amazing thing, right? You just let it go and honor what your voice wants to say, honor what you want to put down, and don't restrict yourself, right? Just don't hold yourself back and let yourself go on it.
Right, right. I think that is a very valuable lesson that I learned the first time around is um, giving myself that space to be authentic to me and let what I want to write about out and know that I will eventually find my audience. And it might not happen overnight, but it will happen
It will.
slowly.
It will happen though, right? It will come.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because I have my beta read right now from my dark romance, and when I did it, I basically just said, look, I'm just gonna go over the top in terms of the darkness and over and top in terms of the spiciness, and just say it's not going to appeal to everybody, but there's
Right.
going to be an audience that says, okay, I love this
I love
because
that.
I said, look, here's almost everything you can put in this story. And, part of it was that I said, okay, my main characters are going to be a serial unaliver and a demon succubus. I'm saying, you can do so much of that. Just let
That's
them
so
go and
awesome.
do what they
Yeah.
want to do, right? So that's the thing. You don't hold it back. You don't restrict yourself and just let
Hmm.
it go, because sometimes you have so much you can take that story if you let it, right? You just let it go and let it
You
flow.
just let it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about the actual story. What is the story about, the two that are coming out, right? And then if you want, we can go back and talk about the follow up initial, right? The release, but
The
just
backwards book that's now the first. Oh my
but why
gosh.
don't, why don't you give us an idea, summary, or again, how, I don't want you to ever share more than you're comfortable with, but
Mhm.
give us an idea of what the books are about for those that don't currently follow you or haven't seen any of your posts yet.
Yeah. So Ruthless Beginnings and Merciless Endings, I call it the Goldridge Prep Duet. It is a duet and it is a dark high school bullying romance. Why choose? For those of you guys who don't know what that is, it is basically you don't, the female character does not choose between the male characters. She gets to stay with both of them. Yay. So basically, it is a story about a girl who gets an opportunity to attend this prestigious school. When she gets to this prestigious school, she finds that all is not what it seems. There are some dark secrets involved. There are mysteries and a background of her history that she discovers about herself while she's in this school. All the while, she is battling two relationships between her best friend, who is now showing more signs of wanting to be a best friend, and her bully, who says he hates her, but is teetering the waters of that hate and love line. So basically, it is a story filled with mystery, romance, a lot of there's action. There's it definitely has its trigger warnings, um, but it is one thrill ride that is amazing. It's mind blowing, and I can't wait for people to dive into it because it's a quick and easy read, but it's definitely it keeps you going. There are turns every step of the way.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, it's I definitely want you to use our share team when your book comes out, so we can get it out there for you and share it for everybody coming out. But it's a good point, in how you're explaining it, because you know this you said, this is would be a dark romance, is the
Yes.
main. And one of the things is, and you explained it, is a lot of stories are multiple genres, right? So you do have your primary, which is the dark romance, but like you
Right.
said, there's mystery and there's other stuff in there. And that kind of leads to another question I usually have, is, going forward, and you said yourself, you have other stories, right? Most of us have way too many stories going on,
Mm.
whether it's notes or pre-starting something or whatever. But do you find yourself at some point maybe going into another genre a little heavier? And it doesn't have to necessarily be, say, a thriller as your primary, but maybe leaning on some of those other aspects of the genres in your storyline in future stories.
Oh, absolutely. I am in love with psychological thrillers. Those are, I definitely have one that I wouldn't, um, I haven't worked on it for a few months just because these two books have kind of taken the primary spot on my priorities. But I actually do have one coming that, where I don't know, I don't have a release date or anything that is on that line of that psychological thriller. Um, but I definitely want to dive into those waters with those genres.
Okay. And this is kind of a two-part question, but for the immediate future, maybe not as immediate future, what are your plans as a writer? What, like you said, you have a couple things you're thinking of, but what is something you would like to do over the next couple of years in terms of writing, or where you kind of want to take this?
Um, Gee, I don't know. I'm usually one of those like, let's find out. I mean, I know I have those stories, those stories that I do want to release. I have more than a few that I definitely want to do. Um, I think I just want to grow and I want to be comfortable in the things that I write and I want to be comfortable in not self sabotaging myself and being confident in the things that I put out just because I am still navigating through that. I am still trying to find my place in these things. So I think my goal as a writer is to eventually have that audience that I can connect with and have confidence in and I know it's hard to have confidence in everything that you put out. I think it's kind of normal to feel a little bit of like imposter syndrome whenever you're
Yeah.
releasing anything like this, but I definitely want to be more comfortable in the things that I do. It's definitely a really big step out of the box for me. And I think I'm going to navigate a little bit with it for a while until I'm ready.
Yeah, and it's the right way to do it. You go at your pace where you're comfortable with taking it, and the growth will happen, right? Just let it happen.
Right.
Like you said, you already noticed that you were kind of holding yourself back,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the biggest thing. You've already noticed that. You can avoid that now and just let the growth happen from that point.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Again, for those that are just signing on or just joining, I'm interviewing author T. Farrell today. If you don't follow her, she has a duet coming out. First one, part one, is on June 21st, which is next Friday. Part two is on June 28th, which is the following Friday. So definitely, go check those out. They're on pre-order now.
Oh yeah, they are definitely on pre-order, so you can go on Amazon and check those out.
And then again, for those again who either joined late or weren't able to see everything in this, I will download this and load this up to my YouTube podcast, and then repost a link to the YouTube, and I'll definitely tag you on it so you can share it out there for everybody to see it.
Awesome.
One of the other questions I like to ask too is, it's my version of a bucket list question, right? And it's a difficult question sometimes, especially when you're much younger, like you are. I'm on the older side, so sometimes it's an easier question. But when you're on the younger side, it's something maybe you haven't thought of yet, right? And it's a bucket list question in terms of an author or being a writer, right? And what I usually like to ask is, when your career is up, when you finish writing, maybe 60 years from now, 50, however long it
Right.
takes, is there something that you want to make sure you have done, right? And it's a very open-ended question, so you could take it any way. So, some authors are like, I've had this story in my mind forever, but I'm not ready to write it yet, right? Or I have this epic idea that's probably going to be 8 books, but I'm just not there yet. I'm not
Right.
ready to write that. And other authors are like, I want to at some point maybe try a screenplay or something else. Have I know, and I know you kind of pre-answered a little bit by saying, I just kind of see what happens as I'm going, and that's not a wrong approach. But is there something maybe in the back of your mind they're like, maybe I really do want to do this one day and attempt it.
Mm. Um, well, like a screenplay of books is always freaking cool. But that's kind of a hard question. I don't know if there's anything necessarily that I think we all want to be known and successful for our writing and stuff. Like it would be cool to what would you call that? Have like certain titles that go with you.
Yeah,
You're a best-selling author this or you're a best-selling author that. I think that's definitely one of the things that I'm like, I want that. That would be so cool. And I think it's because I am confident in what I can write. It's just trying to get there.
yeah.
Um,
It's the audience. It's finding the audience, right?
yeah, it's
And again,
finding the audience.
they're out there. How can you find them, right? And that's
Hmm.
unfortunately the struggle for all of us
Oh my
as
gosh,
indie authors.
it's crazy. But I don't think, like titles are cool and everything, but I want to be, I just want as many people to enjoy the books that I write. I want people to know about the things and the stories that I can come up with, because when I put myself in the shoes of a reader, because I started off as a reader. I love reading. It takes me out of my mental space that is just way too much sometimes. And I want to be able to provide that to others. I want to be able to take the stresses of the new world right here and right now and take you to a different place where you can just mindlessly live somewhere else, where you can envision, like, that is what I want. That is my goal. That is what I want to be known for. Is I want to be known for taking people out of their day to day. I want to be an escape. I want
Yeah,
to offer people that opportunity to be like, you know what? This is too much for me. I'm going to open up a book. It's T. Ferill. I know my girl's going to take care of me. Like that's what I want. Like
yeah,
that's my hope.
yeah. Um, that and you answered that kind of perfectly because again, that is a great answer, right? For people to not only be able to find your work, but to love it, to actually see that and say, I know her stuff is good. It's going to
Yeah.
be a great read for me,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to whatever she has coming out going
Mhm.
forward, right? Um, as like you said, you're kind of a newer author in terms of a couple doing it for a couple years and some of your earlier stuff, but what would you give as advice being a newer author, right? Being early in that stage to other ones that want to get into it. I know we talked about the marketing being something you
Mhm.
just don't expect, and that's
Yeah.
something for all indie authors to understand is that's a big portion of it and you can't get away from it. You're going to have to do something to get your stuff out there. But what would you give as either advice or something like, this is something I didn't really expect outside of the marketing that either I really kind of love about it or, I'm getting accustomed to it, I'm getting used to it.
Um, I think that one of the biggest things that I would say is to write what you want to read, to write almost selfishly. I want you to take whatever is in with you and work on it and write it out. As crazy as it is, as um, terrible as you think it might be, there is always a there's always editing.
Yes.
you know, but I feel like you need to write from a selfish place, and you need to write what you want to see and you want to what you want to read. I don't think that, because, and I'm talking from experience, because I wrote my first two books trying to figure out what other people wanted to begin
Yes.
with. And that was not what I wanted in the very end, which resulted in me unpublishing my books and then redoing them again. Um,
Yes.
the best advice that I can give is to write from the heart, write from your own your own dark places in your head, wherever it may be, wherever you are, right from there, right from the soul, because that is where the most amazing pieces of work will come.
Yep. Hi, Grace. Thank you for joining. It's an excellent point, right? It's actually the best advice I think you can give anybody doing this is, a lot of people that may start writing are coming in being just, heavy readers, and they've read for
Mm-hmm.
years and years. And one of the things you want to try to avoid is don't try to write in the style of somebody. You're not copying it, but don't try to write
Yeah.
in the style, or I really love the dialogue of this one. I want to try. You're not honoring your voice, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, find what you want to read, find the way you want to do it. And that could be, you may say, I love reading, but I love reading shorter things. I like things that are maybe from 50 to 70,
Yeah.
and every once in a while I'll do like the 100 and something. Or maybe you just, I love the epic 100 and some, word ones. Go with what you like. Go with
I
what you like.
do.
Don't try to force it on any side, right? And so I always think that's just amazing um, advice. It's just a good thing to listen to when you're doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's one of the most important, I think, things is just be authentic to yourself. Don't try and be anyone else but you, because that's, I think that's probably one of the the best things that you can do for yourself, and to honor yourself, and to even honor others around you. You never know.
Yep, absolutely. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience? Things maybe that you have coming up, or things that you want to kind of call out?
Um, I mean, there is going to be some construction work on Wicked Ride. I'm just tweaking a few things. So, and again, that is the standalone to the duet that I wrote. Um, but I would 110% recommend you read the first two books, Ruthless Beginnings and Merciless Endings, when they come out, June 21st and then June 28th, and then you can move on to Wicked Ride. You can absolutely start Wicked Ride right now. I mean, it's not going to give you any spoilers to the first two books. I think that's the nice thing about this. Um, but if you are a chronological person and you like order, I would definitely wait until the 21st, read the first book, read the second book, and then go on to Wicked Ride. It is definitely, if you are a chronological OCD, kind of like me sometimes, you will love it that way. It is fantastic. It will be great. It will tie up all the loose ends, and you will be happy you did.
Well, you kind of invented your own little genre with the prequel sequel, right? All in one book.
I know.
So
It's
so, but again, her books, part one's coming out next Friday, June 21st, and part two is coming out the following Friday, June 28th. And
yes.
again, I want to thank everybody for watching. I definitely want to thank you for coming on today and talking about your works, talking about your book. Like I said, message me later. I can talk to you about the share team and stuff, so you can kind of get in there and get your stuff
Hmm.
out there. If you know of any other indie authors, or any indie authors that are watching that are interested in doing, this interview, let me know, and we can kind of plan and schedule something going forward. And I did a post on my page calling out some of the other authors that do support other authors with different
Thank you,
things.
CH.
You can go ahead and see that, and definitely, find them as well, follow them, because there's a lot of support in this community. You hear a lot of the bad stuff of the community with the the things going on, but it's a very supportive community, more than you can even imagine
Right.
that's out there when you find everybody that wants to support you.
Yeah.
But thank you again for coming on. I will
Thank you
download
so
this.
much. I really
I
appreciate
had a
it.
great conversation. I will download this possibly tonight or tomorrow, but definitely over the weekend. I'll post it on my YouTube,
Okay.
and I'll tag you when I put that, and I'll put the link on there for everybody to find it.
Awesome. Perfect.
Thank
Thank you.
thank you
Bye.
again, and thank you everybody that watched today. Goodbye.